is on my side, then that means what I'm doing is moral. Then that would mean that if I advocated for the most horrific things in the world, i.e. SA cages, what would be the standard, because of YouTube, what would be the standard?
It doesn't censor that.
Yeah, well, they may not censor things for you, but they censor all kinds of things for me. But anyway, if you say, well, I mean, I don't know, I'm one of the most mass reported people out there for no reason, but whatever. You would know, I wouldn't, how would I know? It's just my channel. But anyway, if they stuff them all in SA cages, right? Because that's the consensus. Can you tell me why that's immoral?
Yeah, I would take away someone's agency and autonomy over themselves, which they should be able to have over themselves. It's wrong. It's abusive and it's harmful and it's bad.
Yeah, but do you see how that's a tautology? It's tautological.
I think it's perfectly rational, reasonable, and it's what we've been founding our entire structure on for since we started.
It's bad because it's bad?
Sure, if that's what you got out of what I said, sure.
That's what you said. It's bad because I think it's bad because I think it's bad.
From what I said, sure, yeah.
Well, if the consensus is on my side, then what would make us immoral and you moral?
I guess nothing.
Nothing.
Yes. Sure.
So if the answer is nothing, then you have no position from which to critique ever. Hang on. You have no position in which to critique the morality of anybody ever.
So then how is it that my position that I'm saying has been how we've been operating since like the start of our country?
It isn't. It isn't. The country operated under a shared axiom of under God.
Okay.
That was the shared axiomatic presence, was that all of these rights are justified because we ground them in something higher than ourselves. From your view, all rights are justified because you fucking like them. And if the consensus says that you don't like them anymore, you don't have any grounding anymore, other than your own preference for why bad.
What do you think my religious ideology is?
I think that you're at least from the clip that I saw, I don't think you're religious at all.
How do you know I don't have a different relationship with God than you do that's not grounded inside of religious text?
You might, but that doesn't mean that it's coherent.
I think it can be. I think a lot of the Bible is God talking to different people, mostly through feelings, and them feeling like, hey, this is better than that. And so, like, yeah, that's my relationship with God.
Okay, is God the arbiter of morality, in your view?
Sure. Yeah, I think so. I'd like to think that.
What's up?
So you ground your morality in God?
Good morning.
Yeah, I think that there's a greater power out there. Absolutely.
Okay.
I just think that the Bible has been taken advantage of by a lot of different people.
So what are the features? So what are the features of your God?
I have the same features as your God, except I guess mine doesn't justify slavery. That's why I think that, like, the Bible justifying slavery obviously isn't something that God would ever justify.
When does the Bible justify slavery?
In the Old Testament.
Where?
Inside the Old Testament.
Oh, so you don't know.
I feel like I slept way too long. I'm not sure what time I fell asleep, but I was just fucking kept waking up listening to the history podcast and shit.
You don't know. I can help you with this if you want.
If you feel like you need to. Well, I think you know it justifies slavery.
I think that you...
Oh yeah, here's where you're wrong.
I'm actually willing to grant this. It doesn't, but I'm actually willing to just grant it, just for the sake of the... Just for the sake
As long as they don't die within 2 days,
just for the sake of the conversation, I'll just grant it for you, right?
Okay.
Even though I think, that's an ahistorical view of it, but fine.
Okay. Well, that is what the Bible says.
So yeah, where?
Smoky Tony.
In the book, have you just made it up?
I mean, you know it says in the Bible that you can meet your slave. And it doesn't die.
Yeah, I mean, you're not exactly keen on context, though. Otherwise, you wouldn't make videos about me. So, like, well, here, I'll give you an example. Let's pretend for a moment that...
Why don't you just explain the context to me?
I'll explain it, right? Here's how I'll explain it. If it's the case that you have the option of eradicating an enemy completely, eradicating them, enslaving them by putting them in, like, I don't know, internment camps or things like this, or various camps in which you can have them under POW conditions or various things like this, or you risk letting them go so they go back to the enemy and continue to aid them in fighting against you. Which one would you choose?
Is that the context?
Yes.
Of that?
Yes.
What about, so how does that pair into indentured servitude, indentured servitude?
Well, you're
Slavery is?
looking through the lens of presentism, the fallacious way to view the world. The world
So
didn't
you're saying-
operate the same way thousands of
Well,
years
no,
ago.
that's not, I'm not claiming, what I'm saying is you said, you made the claim that like every slave would just run back to some kind of an enemy. And I'm saying, well, what about indentured servitude? We're countering that every
Yeah,
slave.
but so, I'm sorry, did indentured servitude means you've sold yourself into it?
Yeah,
So you have the option to do that because you're a free person?
no, there's a whole conversation about like having financial agency and not having enough money to be able to survive and having to do that. But
So,
that's-
but this would comply with free will, this would comply with free will, right?
The point that I'm trying to make is that you're saying that like every one of the slaves was some kind of an enemy, and I'm just saying that's not the way that it has been.
How do you know? How do you know?
I think that that's an over-exaggeration
Yeah,
to try to make.
would you want to demonstrate it? Do you want to demonstrate that?
What does that mean?
I mean, show me that that's the case from a biblical view.
Oh, do you want to show me that that's the case from a biblical view?
It's your claim.
Okay, so you have just as much claim as I do?
How?
I don't know, you aren't showing me.
Why do I need to show you things about your claim?
I guess you don't.
I don't, exactly, because it's your claim. You're the one who gets to give me the evidence for the claim. The thing is here,
Do you
that's
like
bizarre
the
to me,
e-scooter?
is like under conditionals.
Yeah, like it. I just haven't ridden it as much as I should. Yeah. The main thing that I don't like about it is that, you know, I'm used to using the city e-scooters and the city bikes, so when I use the city bikes, I don't have to worry about it. I just lock it up at the lockup place, and then I don't have to worry about someone fucking stealing it or vandalizing it. But with the e-scooter, I do. So, you know. Plus, with the e-scooter, you're required to wear a helmet. Otherwise, you could get a little fine, which is kind of dumb. Whereas on the e-bike or bikes, you don't have to wear. You're not required to wear a helmet for whatever reason. So yeah, I like some things about it and all that. I'm hoping to ride it more, and thank you for the like. I'm hoping to ride it more and get more experience on it. And I still gotta buy a helmet.
In which you can select POW internment camps against the will of people rather than have them go back to the enemy. Would you select that?
I don't know, maybe.
You know,
Is
you
that
don't
the
know.
entire context of all this justification?
Who cares? Just answer the question first, and then we'll talk about the justification.
It's the question of when we're talking about the Bible. You're saying
If it's the case that you were in a war with another nation, and it was a brutal war between your people group and theirs, and you had three options. Option one, you can exterminate them, civilians and all. Option two, you can send them back to the enemy, and that's where they're going to go, where they'll continue to aid them. Or option three, you can intern them against their will. Which would you do?
Well, we're not talking about interning them against their will. We're talking about interning them and forcing them to do labor.
Yeah, so what's wrong with prisoners doing labor?
We're talking about like slave. We're not talking about prisoners though. We're talking about like slaves.
What's the distinction between somebody who's interned against their will and forced to do labor and slave?
So you're saying that every single slave.
Answer the question, dude. Stop avoiding. What's the difference between a slave and an interned POW forced to do labor? What's the difference?
Yeah. So you're saying that every single slave, according to the Bible,
Just answer the question.
was-
It's not
was
what
not
you're
a
saying.
POW?
You're saying X. Just answer the question. What's the difference between a slave and a POW forced to do work at gunpoint?
Yeah. So I just want to be clear. What you're saying is that every slave
God.
in the Old Testament was some kind of a POW.
I just want to be clear. I didn't say anything like that. Now answer the fucking question.
So now why not
Answer. Answer the question.
Jesus
Well, you're
Christ.
proposing hypotheticals.
Answer
related to religion,
The
so I don't know why I answered the
question. Can
question.
you even repeat the question?
Are you okay?
Answer the question.
Okay. Are you saying that most or all?
Oh, no, that's a
Justification
question.
of
That's
slavery
a
in the Old
question.
Testament?
That's not answering the
Yeah.
question.
Well, I'm just confused because it seems
Okay,
like
well, let me
you're not having a
unconfuse it. Let me unconfuse it.
Seems like you're not having. a
Here's my
conversation about
question.
religion,
Here's my
you're just
here's my
proposing to insert
question.
hypothetical.
Yeah, so here's my question. What's the difference between slavery and being an intern POW forced to do labor at gunpoint? What's the difference?
Like a prisoner of war versus somebody that's forced to do labor at gunpoint.
What's the difference between a slave and a POW interned against their will and forced to do labor? What's the difference?
Well, the slave has to do work or they get beat to death, right? Or
POW does too.
Yeah. Okay. So you're saying that's a good thing that we imprison people and beat them?
Asking you.
Isn't that like?
What's the difference between going through a stop sign and and stopping at a stop sign? So you're saying it's good to go through stop signs, bro? Come on, just answer the question. What's the difference between a POW who's interned against their will, forced to do labor, and a slave? What's the difference?
Why does it matter? It sounds like they're both bad. So why does
Can you
it
just
matter?
answer the question?
Well, they're both slaves, right?
Okay, thank you. So they're both slaves. Now,
What does it have to
if
do?
that's the
So
case,
you're saying that most
Yeah.
of the slaves in the Old Testament were prisoners of war.
yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
I've never heard that before. I've seen a lot of different conservatives talk about that.
Yeah, but not only that, there was the option of extermination or integration. You tell me.
Or what? There's no third option?
The third option is that you let them go back to the enemy, their false god, and then continue to attack you.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the difference. And
So you're
so
saying that-
this is the problem. This is the problem, right? Is like from your view, right this second, you justified slavery because you yourself would be a slave owner if you were in charge of a military. Yeah, if you were in charge of a military and had POWs and you made them work, like clean out their own latrines, various things like this, against their will, then you actually don't even have a moral ground from which to oppose slavery now.
Well, do I have to beat my slaves though? Like, let's say that what you're saying is correct, that most slaves are prisoners of war. Why do you have to subject them to rules that allow you to beat them?
For the same reason that you would have corporal punishment with POWs as a disincentive for them to kill your people, poison your food, do various things like this.
But they're already captured, so
Yeah.
now we're doing slavery later.
And what's a soldier's job when they're captured? It's to escape. To escape, hinder the enemy, and kill them by any means necessary. So my guess is that you probably wouldn't want your soldiers to get poisoned. And if they tried to poison one of your soldiers, maybe you'd execute them, maybe you'd do something like that, send a message, stop doing that, right? Wouldn't you?
I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Sure.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
It's incredible that someone so unforgettable
Okay. So you're saying that in general, that's the only instance of slavery, or the majority of instances of slavery is prisoners of
Yeah.
war? Okay. Gotcha.
But yeah, the idea is integration. So if you're going to have
I think
any,
that's justifiable nowadays that we have better technologies to be able to people, like
Yeah.
say we imprison people, or
yeah,
well, we don't do that anymore.
yeah, we
It's
do.
changed.
We do that. Yeah.
I don't think that we usually beat people.
I think if you try to escape when you're a prisoner of war, the United States will shoot you.
They might shoot you, sure,
Yeah.
if they couldn't get you back in any other
Yeah.
way. Okay.
And I think they beat your ass too before they brought you back if you resisted in any way, shape, or form. And I think if you tried to poison their men, they might do all sorts of punishments. I know for sure, yeah.
Okay. Sorry, you just said you think. I just wanted.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you try to escape from a low facility prison, they can shoot you.
Yeah. All right. Well,
If you
listen, I'll
resist
take your
prison
word
guards,
for it.
if you
I'll
resist
take
prison
your
guards,
word
they beat
for
your
it.
ass, right?
No, not usually.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they
Like
do.
American prisons?
Yes.
No. No. They're not supposed to do that. That would be.
So if you tried to punch a guard in the face, you're not going to get your ass kicked, huh?
That's different from trying to escape. If that's part of it, then you might get your ass kicked.
Yeah, if you resist their authority, you're going to get your ass beat.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes, depending on what you do to resist their authority, you could. Okay, so I'll have to look into that later. I'll take what you're saying, I guess, at fact that most prisoners, according to the Bible, were prisoners of war that were aggressing on the
No. That's the more moral position to integrate.
Well, no.
To integrate as slaves than extermination,
Sure.
and it would be under the same ideals of prisoner of war. Yes.
Okay, so I'm just sorry. So I'm going to take your word for it and look into it later. That most slaves, when it came to, I guess, this is for Jewish people, I guess at this point, were prisoners of war, and they were not the aggressors either. Like it was people trying to attack, Jewish people, and they enslaved them, and they created these punishments.
Well, these are long-standing feuds between people groups, like the Canaanites, for instance. You're talking about, long-standing, perpetual warfare for a long, long time between many of these groups. And what you do is you put things through the ideas of presentism, and you forget that the world was once a much more barbaric place. And we have technology that's great, but we still engage in the same exact barbarism. If prisoners try to escape, we shoot them. If prisoners try to attack, yeah, we do. We intern people against their will all the time, make them work.
Sure, but in general, we're not as barbaric as the cultures back in the day, right? Like that. Because you just said that, like, I'm looking at it through like a modern lens. It's much softer, right? So like I have that.
In many ways, we're more barbaric, and in many ways, we're not.
Oh, okay. Like what ways are we more barbaric?
Like for instance, I think that dueling would.
Well, the maintenance person came by earlier, and I was in the shower, so I'm worried that they're gonna come back while I'm smoking, and that'll be sus. Otherwise, I'm just chilling, smoking right now.
There's a much more sophisticated way to take care of issues than modernity, where you have to yell and scream and shit like and nothing gets resolved.
Interesting. Is dueling in the Bible?
What? What does that have to do with anything?
Well, you said you think it's better, but if it's not in the Bible,
I didn't say I think it's better. I said I'm talking about barbarism. We're talking about barbarism.
That dueling would be better.
A better way to it's a better way.
Yeah, but like, why is it better? Is it grounded in the Bible?
It's a better way for you to take care of conflict. That's it.
Okay.
I'm not giving a moral ought here. I'm not saying it's more moral.
You said think. But you think. I was just wondering why you think that. Is it
because once upon a time, if you slighted a man's honor, he would shoot you.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot less slighting of people's honor.
Was there?
Yeah.
Did we have more wars back then?
No.
Was there more
wars than the 20th century? Yeah, right.
We have a much
Not even close.
We have a much larger population scale now, but they don't say proportionally probably.
No, more wars in the 20th century, I think, than in all of history combined.
Yeah, but we're talking about population scale, right? We have 7 billion people on Earth now. That's huge explosion. So
more wars?
We probably have fewer wars.
Proportional to what?
I'm assuming you understand per capita, so.
Yeah, I don't think that's even the case. I don't even think if you did it per capita that would be the case. But even then, no, the whole idea that we now have technology, so now we can kill a lot more people at once than we could with swords and shields is somehow I don't understand I don't know how we've avoided conflict here exactly. What are you talking about? Or how it's better for avoidance of conflict. If it's the case that you could call a person out, let me ask you this: if it was a case right this second that if a person slighted you, you could call them out for a duel. Do you think that people would be way more careful about slighting other people?
Maybe, but wouldn't that go against some kind of a freedom of speech?
Maybe, but so what? What does that have to do with anything?
I mean, I'm a pretty big freedom of speech advocate. I think you should be able to call people gay and yell at them and call them.
Oh, wait. Hang on. Actually, no, it wouldn't go against freedom of speech. How would it?
Oh, you don't have to accept the duel. So then what does it matter?
Because if it was the case that you could accept the duel and you turned it down, that'd be a slight on your honor.
Why can't, does it have to be a duel to the death?
Most duels weren't.
Well, so why can't, you can do that nowadays. You can be like, oh, I want to box you or something. You can do that.
No, it's not the same.
Why?
Because death isn't in the equation generally.
Oh, sorry. I thought you just said that most people did not die. Sorry, that was me mishearing it. Okay, so it has to be a fight to the death.
No, it doesn't have to be a fight to the death. Death just needs to be present.
Oh, well, I don't think death should be present.
Why not?
I mean, yeah, I guess I don't know why killing people because they don't like you. That seems a little barbaric.
Even if you agree to it?
Well, yeah, you can agree to it. I guess you couldn't agree to a fight to the death now. Sure.
Why not?
Well, I don't think you're legally allowed to.
Yeah, but why not? It's just stupid, right? It's just silly.
Maybe. I mean, I don't think it's a good idea
to
for
any
people
fight
to
is a
get
potential
into minor
fight
altercations because they, went after each other's
Why not?
or something.
That seems fine.
I don't know.
It seems like way more. It seems to me like way less people would be slighting other people If you could be like, okay, pistols at noon.
Well, then you wouldn't though, because you don't have to accept the pistol at noon, right?
Yeah, but then the person would be like, see, that guy's a pussy, which therefore is a slight on your honor,
Maybe
right?
that guy's fucking gay. Yeah, maybe that guy's
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, that would be a slight on your honor. Oh, hey, look, he slanders
guess.
everybody, but then won't show up to any of the duels. Like, it seemed like a pretty good way to organize things.
It's interesting. I don't know if I agree with it. I'll have to think about that. That might be a little bit crazy. You might have a lot of people dying unnecessarily that could otherwise do other things like support their family.
Less people dying.
You think less people would? Why would less people die?
Well, because I think that what happens right now is that you have these crimes of passions and various other things like this where people snap because they can't get satisfaction against their accusers. And so they lose their shit.
Okay.
And I think that if they were able to individually call out people who slighted their honor and say pistols at noon, I think that you would find that people were a lot more courteous to other people. That's all.
Maybe that's possible. I mean, I don't know.
It stands to reason, right?
Wide scale. Well, we generally have a criminal justice system that I think for the most part works out pretty well.
Oh yeah, except unless it's blacks and women and everybody except white guys, right?
I don't know what that means. A little confused.
Like you think the criminal justice system is awesome except for when it comes to minorities and everybody is not a white guy?
Honestly, generally, I think the criminal justice system is pretty decent. I don't think that our biggest issue in our society is necessarily the criminal justice system against black people. I think it's very difficult for anybody, white people, black people, any type of person, to be able to support themselves financially because of like massive job loss. So like any disparity that there is when it comes to black people or women or whatever, I think would largely go away if people had more financial opportunity. So like I'm not really focused on that.
So right now there's a disparity though, right? Of course.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, there's a disparity.
Of course.
I don't understand.
Just not for white people, right?
Is there a disparity where white people are getting overcharged?
Is there a disparity where black people are?
In low-income areas, sure, but I think that.
No, I don't think there is. I don't think there is.
Okay, well, I would say that it was mostly based on like financial opportunity, right? So like black people are disproportionately poor, they're gonna go to jail more,
Okay.
right? I don't think it's because they're black, I think it's because they're poor. So
But-
we can focus on.
But I would like
money more.
to just very quickly, if you don't mind, get back to this idea of why it is again that
I mean, I was having a nice, I
Yeah.
think the conversation went to a better spot when we were just kind of talking and bullshitting and keeping it.
yeah, well, it is casual, but I want you to actually engage with what I'm asking now, right?
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
like actually engage. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't listen to just respond. Just actually think about what I'm saying
Yeah.
because you want to understand my
Right, just to be
worldview.
clear, I did concede that, hey, I'm gonna look into it later.
Yeah, I get it. But
So
I
I am engaging.
yeah,
What you're
okay.
saying isn't exactly.
But what I want you to
what
do
I
is
think.
actually think about what it is that I'm saying. Don't listen to respond.
Okay.
Sweet. I gotta do some PT today. Forgot to say hi. Yeah, I'm about to smoke with you, man. Poor people are generally dangerous. Like me. The most dangerous man you ever met.
Right? Because you want to understand how I view the world, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that the whole point?
Well, I think I do understand that. Like, you're very religious centric. Like, you believe in an objective morality.
No, it's worse. It's worse. I don't believe that any of you have any leg to stand on to ever critique another person's morality ever because you don't believe that there is any such thing as morality. And when put to the question of this, I can demonstrate this for you.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, so if you make an appeal to consensus, meaning X amount of people believe thing is moral, right? And those people put in like, you can marry 13-year-old girls. Do you believe that that's immoral?
Yes.
That makes sense to me that you would believe it's immoral. Can you tell me what would actually make that position moral and their position immoral?
God told me that's wrong.
The divine command.
Yeah.
Are you
God
the
says
uber
that you
rich
should-
or?
you should-
Oh yeah.
Okay. And where
Yeah. Well, I would argue the rich are more evil, but the poor are more dangerous on a day-to-day basis.
did God tell you that through?
Just the learnings that I got through my growing up as a Roman Catholic.
So the
That's
Bible?
what I learned. Yeah, sure. The
So-
Bible, part of the Bible, and then there's aspects that I don't think are biblical.
So now the Bible is
I guess
true?
so. I think that the way that I learned religion and God is true. Yeah, it's
The-
not all.
The Bible is true.
Parts of it I think can be true.
Well,
Sure.
how do you know which parts are true?
God speaks to me.
Okay, what does he say?
He tells me that we should love people that aren't harming other people.
He does, huh?
Yeah, he does that.
So
Why are you laughing
He,
at
he beams it directly into your dome, does he?
Well, how else does God talk to you?
Okay, which parts of the Bible did God tell you were true?
He didn't tell me any parts of the Bible were true. I think God speaks to people.
Then why is it that you
and I,
only,
and I grew up religiously centered.
then why is it that you believe some parts of the Bible are true again?
I think that a lot of the Bible has been corrupted by people that are trying to influence the Bible into, taking over and abusing power.
Well, you say a lot. That's pretty specific. That means that there's a lot of books. Which one specifically
sure.
does God not want in there?
Specific book? I guess I couldn't answer that specific question.
That's really weird because I thought God told you.
know.
Thought God told you it was corrupted.
Well, God doesn't speak to you through words, right? He speaks to you through feelings, huh?
So God gave you the feeling of that which books were corrupted.
Yeah, I guess rich people are more dangerous just because they have access to, things. When you're super poor, you can't really get at anyone or do anything.
I give you the feeling that when I interact with things day to day, I know what is right and what is wrong because of my connection to God growing up, going through.
Even if when you're poor, you'll have like the most maybe evil intentions sometimes. I don't know.
Like, different religion schools and learning about Jesus and God through my pastors.
So how do you know what His word is, though?
Because I was taught to be able to interpret His word by my pastors, yeah.
And where do you interpret His word?
What do you mean specifically where?
From the Bible.
The bathroom? Oh, I don't interpret it from the Bible. I think that the Bible has been a corrupted piece of, is a corrupted book that men and women have taken advantage of to try.
And God told you that?
Dominance. Yeah.
Through feelings.
Yeah.
Now, if another person tells you that God told them through feelings that the Bible is 100% true, what metric would you use to tell them that they're incorrect?
I would just use force doctrine.
Yeah, so you're just going to troll now? That's it?
I mean, listen.
That's the whole thing. It's like
We're
the whole thing is so
very-
funny here. It's like you know that you
very-
can't
I'm
answer
not-
these questions, so you're just going to troll, bro.
Well, this is the thing, is that I'm not really trolling. I do genuinely believe in God. I also do genuinely believe that there's a lot of aspects of the Bible that are wrong.
And then you're gonna troll.
Abusive. I believe.
Then stop trolling and just answer the question. dude.
200K or more.
Well, no,
a year.
like specifically, like I think that it's okay to be gay. Gay marriage is fine.
Yeah, based on what though? What from a Christian ethic informs you that that's the case?
This guy's talking about the Bible. It's fucking hilarious because
God,
can't
I don't think that the
decide
Bible's
what's
accurate.
true.
I mean, there's people who talk about how it's about you shouldn't be sleeping with children instead of gay people. I guess I can go with that, but like overall, I think it's wrong.
been
and I
pretty
think
fun.
Yeah.
that's
So
not-
what? So which books are
Why
you
do I have
saying
to
God's
why do I have
telling?
to centralize it in a book?
Well, because where else are you getting the word of God?
In here.
Okay, then if that's the case, if I say in here God tells me being a homosexual is wrong,
Yeah.
what's the metric we use to determine that you're correct?
My God is better, right? Isn't that how we've been doing it for a long time?
So-
Like Islam versus.
so how
it's
is-
just two different.
So there's no way to
groups.
determine that?
Right here, conversation, right?
We're having the conversation. I believe that homosexuality is a sin. You do not. You say God
It's also
tells you that. I
God.
say, okay, God tells me something different. Well, how do we know you're right and I'm wrong?
We don't.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm more guided than you.
Okay, so
We
there's.
have to leave it up to a conversation about
No,
it.
we're
It's
having a
like,
conversation
American
about it.
conversation.
We're literally having a conversation about the thing you say we should be talking about. So I don't even
Yeah, let's talk
understand
about
what.
why it's wrong to be gay. Let's talk about it. What's wrong with being gay?
Yeah. So let's. You say that
Yeah.
God tells you that it's right, that it's okay.
Yeah, and some of the way he tells me that there's no logical reason to ban gay marriage.
Does God tell you that marrying 3
Yeah,
women
this
is
guy,
okay?
this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
No, but maybe it should be. I never thought about it. It's not something.
Does
I've
God
pondered
tell you
on.
that marrying 2 women is okay?
It's not something I've ever prayed to God about.
So you don't know.
I don't have a strong feeling on these two things. Maybe they should be able to. I don't really know. I don't have a strong feeling, and I've never prayed to God about it.
Does God tell you that having sex with 50 women and impregnating them all is okay?
I've never talked to God about that before. I mean, I think it's wrong, probably.
Why?
You want to take care of all your kids. Yeah, you want to be able
Some
to.
What if you
Context,
can't take care
I
of them? You're
think
really
so.
rich.
Well,
You're
can't-
Elon Musk.
It doesn't matter if you're rich, you still can't give them the moral support that they need. I think that every child needs like a father's love or some kind of very strong masculine presence, and without that, then you're probably not going to be a very good father, so you shouldn't have 50 kids with 50 women.
Okay, so what about 10 kids with one woman?
I think that might be a little too much for you to raise by yourself. Once you get into the point where you have to have your kids start acting like a parent to your other kids, I think that opens you up for a pretty rough scenario.
So just the outcomes are bad, so you shouldn't do it?
It's kind of, sure. I
Then that's my argument against homosexuality. Was there anything else?
Oh, what's the outcome is bad by being gay?
Oh, wait. Are you serious?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, let's talk first about the STD rate, shall we?
Let's talk about STDs.
Yeah. What do you think that the rates of STDs are from homosexuals in comparison to non-homosexuals?
Are we talking about gay men or gay women?
Gay men.
Yeah, they're higher. Men are
How much higher?
I would say significantly higher.
Mm.
But this is
Yeah, I think it's just interesting to listen to the whole thing.
it's a men issue. It's not a gay
Is that
issue.
because of the hyper amount of promiscuity, which you're
I think
against?
that men tend to be more promiscuous.
Well, that's strange. Why would you give them a pass on being more promiscuous, or wouldn't give them a pass on being super promiscuous with women, but you do it with each other? That's weird.
I'm not saying that I have a pass for it. I'm just explaining the behavior. I don't think it's right to have a bunch of random sex. I'm just saying that.
Okay, so when
it's-
homosexuals engage in promiscuous lifestyles, that's wrong.
In general, I'm not a big fan of promiscuous lifestyles, sure, but that's not something that is.
Yeah, but is it
exclusive to
wrong?
people.
I lost my wife and I'm overloaded on widower sympathy.
People just want to gossip about me.
Oh, really? They want to gossip about me? Yeah, true. Yep, I agree. Yeah, I guess that's one of the reasons I like listening to Andrew Wilson's, just because he understands debating, and I like learning about logical fallacies and shit like that. And yeah, it exposes some people's bad worldviews and bad logic.
Is it wrong to be promiscuous? I don't know if I would say it's absolutely wrong. I don't think it's right. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion that is absolutely wrong and the worst thing. If you want to do that, you can. That's part of your.
So it's not immoral for them to be.
expression.
So it's not immoral for them to be promiscuous,
I guess not.
even though
I
the
just-
outcomes of the promiscuity lead to STDs, which from your
Sure,
worldview
yeah.
would be wrong. That's insane to me, bro.
Well, we all do have a
You're
lot of
walking
medication that
contradiction.
Basically, yeah, sure. So we have a lot of medication that deals with STD issues, so it's not like it's a huge problem.
Oh no, it's a huge problem. I don't know where you got the idea it's not a huge problem because you can
Well,
treat
they
it.
have,
Many of these things are incurable, like HIV is incurable, for instance,
well, but the medication that you get makes it virtually non-existent.
and makes you sick for most of your life, and it has all sorts of side effects.
That's true.
And it's, yeah, it does. It makes you sick.
Well, I mean, every medication has a side effect.
That's right. You know what you never have to take medication for? An STD you don't have.
I guess that's true.
And there seems to be a pretty surefire way to avoid them, isn't there?
Okay, so you're saying that we shouldn't let people be gay because it could lead to outcomes of STDs?
No. I'm saying from your view, that's the case. From your view, the case
That's not
is,
from my view.
yeah, it is. You said negative outcomes are why you would be against a polygamous marriage, or why you'd be against promiscuous sex. So if the outcome
Well,
is,
me being against promiscuous sex doesn't mean that I'm legislating.
Yeah, I've always just been interested in debates, so that's why I watch a lot of them.
Against it. I can dislike something without making it illegal, without like wanting to make it illegal.
you don't have to make legislation based on things you consider immoral. I just want to see if you actually consider them immoral and you're consistent.
I don't, but you're saying that all
You
gay
don't.
people are immoral.
You don't
You're saying
consider
that
it.
you're saying that all gay people are immoral just because
Yeah.
some of them might be promiscuous.
Yeah, because having sex outside of marriage is immoral, right?
Okay. I guess, but I have sex. I had sex outside of my marriage.
Sure, but that doesn't mean you weren't engaged in something that was immoral, right?
Yeah, but I also don't think I should not be able to marry my wife. So why is that specifically?
Because
Like, why
under
is it
Christian
illegal?
ethics, homosexuals cannot get
Well, yeah, but
married.
you're saying that it's wrong because some gay
Scientific
people have more sex and get more
literacy.
STDs. That
Yeah.
means all.
No, that's your view is negative outcome.
And And we got too many illiterate people out there. So yeah, I think more people need to be on this this wavelength.
What's wrong?
I think that's a very simplified version of it. I think
What's
that, like,
what's the
think
more
that-
complex version of it?
Something have a negative outcome being wrong doesn't mean that I think it's so wrong it needs to be non-existent. I mean, you could make arguments that being sexually promiscuous can help.
Well, I don't understand. Why would
You don't
society
gotta
be
build it.
worse off if there was less gay promiscuous sex? Exactly.
Why do you think it would be better off? If
Because there would be a huge, a rampant decline in STDs and cross-contamination from bisexuals who move these STDs over from homosexual communities into the heterosexual community, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's an easy one to point at. Another one is another one is gay adoption. That's a bad idea too.
Well, why is it a bad idea? There seems to be very high rates of success with gay adoptions, and in fact, gay people tend to adopt more than straight people.
Because every
Hold on, one second. Which lends to the idea that gay people tend to raise other people's kids rather than their own, which means that they take resources and dump them into either their nieces or nephews or some kind of an adoptive kid. So would that be a positive?
Do you
Isn't it
know?
better?
Yeah. Do you know what the rate is for newborns being adopted when they're put up for adoption?
I don't know.
It's 100%.
Oh, newborns, sure, but what about kids that aren't newborns? What about like teenagers?
Yeah. So you want to take kids who generally are coming from broken environments, broken homes, all right, where often there's rates of abuse and various things like that, which is why they're put up in the system. And you want to put them in the hands of homosexual men who've often themselves experienced significant abuse.
I don't know if I would say they often have.
Often.
What's the percentage? What's
Much higher than the general population.
Interesting. Do you think that that's because they're gay and isolated in society that hates them, and so they get looked at as like, oh,
Regardless of why the social stigma exists.
Well, no, but you can't say that.
Regardless
of why.
regardless of why the social stigma exists, it is the case that they have much higher rates of being abused than the general population does, including
But even if
sexual
that's
abuse.
true-
And then you're going to put young boys in their care, right? That seems foolish to me. Yes.
Why? You think that? So I just want to be very clear. You think that most gay people were sexually abused?
I don't know if it's most, but it's much higher
So a
than the general
disproportionate. So
population.
let's say the general population is like 0.5%, and 3 times more gay people are abused. So 1.5% of gay people.
Yeah, any more than
are
I would
abused.
want to put
Okay.
children in the hands of promiscuous couples, swinger couples.
Why are all gay people promiscuous though?
Hey man, I don't think there's nothing we can do about gay people adopting. I think it's just the nature of the system we're in, man.
Well, it's not all. I don't monolithically say things like this, but most. In that case, it is most.
Why most?
Because that's what the data shows. Most, including when they're
Data shows
married.
that most gay
Yep.
men are
Even
promiscuous.
inside of marriage, almost all of them
So
have an
let's
open.
just say-
Stop, bro. Let me finish. Almost all of them,
All right.
even in marriage, have open relationships.
Most gay men have open relationships.
In marriage, yeah.
That's true.
That's true.
Wow. Where did you get that from? I've never heard that before in my life.
You haven't, huh? Have you ever looked? No.
Well, no, I guess
No.
I haven't.
I guess you haven't. Look it up.
You're saying most gay men, most gay men are engaging in open relationships.
That's correct. But even in marriage, most of them do.
So most married gay men. Okay.
Mhm.
And most married gay men have an open relationship. Where'd you hear this before? I'm just curious.
I'll send you the studies if you'd like when we're done.
Yeah. So what about gay women? Because I'm seeing here it says from what this and this is AI over to have to look deeper, but it says 30 to 50%, which is rather high. I don't know that would necessarily create a dysfunctional structure just because if they kept that for themselves. But so if the research says that gay women don't have the same issue, well, what if we banned gay marriage, gay male marriage? Or
Look at the domestic abuse rates of lesbians.
Oh, they're higher.
Oh, way higher. Because
So you-
it's almost like when you take mommy and daddy, you take the male and female. Like, for instance, don't you agree that children deserve to have both masculine and feminine in their life?
Gay ass.
Absolutely.
From their mom and their dad.
I think from any masculine and feminine structure.
And are homosexual men taking enough of these adopted children that they would not be adopted by heterosexual couples? The answer is no. They have to wait in
Well, it
line.
seems
They have
like-
to wait in line. And we could give them that normalcy, and instead we don't. We put them in, generally speaking, relationships with very high-risk people.
High risk. Why? Because there is a potential that they have more open relationships and the potential that they were abused more.
It's not just a potential, it's an overwhelming potential.
An overwhelming. So most, just again, I'm gonna reiterate, most gay people were abused as kids, is what you're saying.
I don't know if most were abused as kids, but most are in open relationships, yes.
Well, that's probably a little bit different. Because what you're insinuating when you're saying like, hey, a gay person was abused as a kid, it sounds like you're insinuating that they were.
If you have a child in your house, do you think bringing a bunch of strange men into your house all the time is a good idea or a fucking bad idea?
Well, I don't think that's how open relationships would work, right? They would.
Except that's exactly how they work. And when you look at the step-parent scenario, it's the same thing. The rates of abuse of children,
Wait, why do you think that's
the
how it
rates
works,
of
though?
abuse for children generally happen when you have men who are not the biological father coming into the home. That's where the most rampant rates of abuse of children happen, is from the non-biological father in the home.
Okay, so you're saying we should have no adoption?
No, I'm not saying no adoption. What I'm saying to you is that if it's the case,
That's not a biological.
because if you
father.
have a straight couple, they're not in an open relationship, they're in a stable relationship, they don't have a bunch of strange men coming into their home.
Okay, so if they are,
Dip into it, this chunky salsa. Mexican is it.
Bruh, these commercials are killing me. Literally dying here. Oh, I'm about to watch this press briefing. Oh, yeah. Let's see what's going on in the world today. What's going on in the
Afternoon,
world
everyone.
today?
Thank you for coming today. I apologize for the delay. I was once again with the president. He and I were both reviewing the newly released surveillance footage from FBI in the Savannah Guthrie case on just this heartbreaking situation with respect to her mother. The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of the suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground. And once again, I will reiterate that the prayers of this entire White House are with Savannah and her family at this time.
I don't even know who
And
they're
we hope
talking
this
about.
person is found soon and that her mother is brought home safely.
Who?
President Trump has a very busy week ahead, so I will begin with some scheduling announcements today. Tomorrow here at the White House, the president will host Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a bilateral meeting. The remainder of the week will be focused on energy and deregulation. Tomorrow afternoon, the president will hold an event in the East Room to tout clean, beautiful coal as America's most reliable and affordable energy source, especially during periods of peak demand, just as we saw during this most recent winter storm, which impacted hundreds of millions of Americans.
Coal?
The president will discuss how clean, beautiful coal is not only keeping the lights on in our country, but also driving down the cost of electricity across the country as well. Additionally, on Thursday, President Trump will be joined by Administrator Lee Zeldin to formalize the rescission of the 2009 Obama-era endangerment finding. This will be the largest deregulatory action in American history, and it will save the American people $1.3 trillion in crushing regulations. The bulk of the savings will stem from reduced costs for new vehicles, with the EPA projecting average per vehicle savings of more than $2,400 for popular light-duty cars, SUVs, and trucks. This is just one more way this administration is working to make life more affordable for everyday Americans. Overall, these groundbreaking actions from President Trump will drive larger economic growth, create thousands of good-paying jobs, expand manufacturing, increase consumer choice, and improve affordability for millions of families and businesses. Finally, on Friday, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump will travel to Fort Bragg in the great state of North Carolina to meet with military families and the heroic members of our special forces who carried out the successful Operation Absolute Resolve in Venezuela and helped bring narco-terrorist Nicolas Maduro to justice. I know the President and First Lady are both greatly looking forward to this visit. Also, the First Lady will celebrate Valentine's Day at the Children's Inn at the National Institute of Health tomorrow, with children, families, and NIH staff involved in clinical trials. In other news this week, thanks to President Trump signing the largest middle-class tax cut in history, this is shaping up to be the biggest tax refund season ever, and we are in it now. President Trump and Republicans fundamentally believe that Americans deserve to keep more of their hard-earned money, not less, which is why he fought so hard to deliver this long overdue relief. From no tax on tips, overtime, or Social Security, to auto loan interest deductions on new American-made vehicles, plus increases to the standard deduction in child tax credit, more money is flowing back into the pockets of hardworking Americans. We're already hearing from everyday Americans across the country who are reporting substantial tax savings thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, which every single Democrat in Congress voted against. AMAC, which represents millions of Americans, has heard directly from more than their 1,000 members.
Oh. I don't think I saw that one yet.
Already about how the Trump tax cuts are easing cost of living concerns. I wanted to share a few of those powerful responses with you today. This one comes from Dean and Wendy in Wisconsin, who says, quote, instead of paying out $3,700 last year, we got back $2,500 in refunds this year. This is huge for our family. Steve from California said, quote, the new senior citizen deduction is a tremendous relief and has given us peace of mind and the freedom to truly enjoy the retirement years we worked so hard for. Eric from Nevada said, as a senior, no tax on Social Security helps me tremendously. The no tax on tips helps my daughter-in-law as a waitress. The no tax on overtime helps my son, who works constantly. Our family savings from the One Big Beautiful Bill could total even more than $5,000. We love the Trump tax cuts. These are just a few positive examples of the everyday.
It feels pretty cold here, but it doesn't look terrible outside.
Americans that President Trump's tax cuts are uplifting. We'd love to hear more from the American people across
It's 45 here.
the country who are benefiting from the Working Families tax cuts. The White House is also pleased to share that parents across the country can now officially apply to open a Trump account for their child. In order to apply, parents can visit trumpaccounts.gov and fill out the IRS form 4547. These Trump accounts are special investment accounts aimed at providing American children with a jump start on building wealth for life. They have all the tax advantages as a traditional IRA account, but are specifically tailored to build wealth the moment a child is born. Thanks to President Trump, every child born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028 is eligible to receive $1,000 from the U.S. Treasury to fund their account. Parents, guardians, and even nonprofits can then contribute up to $5,000 per
same
year.
here.
Employers can
At least
also
it's not
contribute
rainy.
up to $2,500 per year per employee. President Trump believes there is no better investment than investing in our nation's children. If you are a parent who maximizes contributions to your child's Trump account, its projected value could reach nearly 1.1. The criticism that immigration enforcement
The questions are the best part.
for America's kids will boom too. So with that, once again, every parent should go to trumpaccounts.gov today, and I'm going to put it on my own personal to-do list to sign up for one as well. With that, I will take your questions. Caroline Downey from the National Review is here. Thank you for being here, and why don't you kick us off?
Thank you for having me. On the criticism that immigration enforcement has become arbitrary or not particularly prioritizing, Democrats have been circulating the statistic that only 14% of illegal aliens arrested under this administration are violent criminals, but we know that in deep blue cities with progressive district attorneys, it's common to plead down serious violent crimes into less serious offenses, which could be destroying those numbers. So given that backdrop, does the administration still stand by the messaging that you're
Yeah, I'm in Portland.
targeting the worst of the worst, and does this prevailing narrative tell the whole story?
Well, thank you for bringing this up, Caroline. I've seen this CBS report floating around. There's a lot of liberal talking heads and pundits and Democrat elected politicians who think that this single story and these statistics and the way they are painted is somehow a shot at this administration. It is not, and let me correct the record. Number one, the Trump administration has been clear from day one that any illegal alien present in this country is subject to deportation. However, the priority, of course, is going after the convicted criminals, the worst of the worst, the murderers, the pedophiles, the rapists in this country. Interestingly, in the CBS story, what the Democrat talking heads on television are not saying is this line. Nearly 60% of ICE arrestees over the past year had criminal charges or convictions. And among that population, the majority of the criminal charges or convictions are for nonviolent crimes. Oh, well, what are nonviolent crimes, you ask? This has coincided with what DHS has been saying all along, that approximately 70% of illegal aliens arrested under President Trump have pending criminal charges and or prior convictions. And these so-called nonviolent crimes, drug trafficking, distribution of child porn, burglary, fraud, DUI, embezzlement, solicitation of a minor, and human smuggling, just to name a few. So just because a crime is not violent in
Oh, I gotta make some breakfast here.
nature doesn't mean that crime is victimless. And I can guarantee every single person who is out there on television right now pointing to these statistics that were taken out of context by CBS News would not want an illegal alien convicted of the distribution of child porn or fraud or DUI living in your community. So the Trump administration will continue our focus on deporting all illegal aliens present in our country with a focus on the worst of the worst criminals. Thank you for being here. Gabe.
Thank you. And thank you for the update on our colleague Senator Guthrie's mother. Is there anything more you can share? You said the president was reviewing that surveillance footage. What was his initial reaction when seeing the disturbing images? And does he believe that that suspect acted alone?
I haven't
Yeah,
talked
for sure, man.
specifically about the second point.
Yeah, for sure, man. Yeah, I mean, I'm out there. So yeah, say hi if you want to.
On whether the suspect acted alone or not, so I don't want to weigh in on the president's thinking on that. His initial reaction, of course, as all Americans, is just pure disgust. And again, it's heartbreaking to see now this footage really bring to life a story we've all been reading about. And again, we're just praying for the safety of Nancy Guthrie and that she will return home soon. And the president directed me to please encourage all Americans with any information to call the FBI, and we hope that this case will come to a positive resolution as soon as possible.
Of course, there's a lot to talk about and a completely separate topic. I was hoping you could clarify something that's come up over the last several days, again regarding a separate topic, in the Epstein files. According to newly released files, the president had a conversation with the Palm Beach police chief in the early 2000s, according to the police chief in 2019.
Bruh. It's crazy. They found out that they have, in Portland, they found out that they have over $100 million in housing money just sitting there unspent. That's crazy to me. $100 million in housing money sitting there just unspent. Like, what the fuck?
The president has gone on record before, he's told reporters that he said that Jeffrey Epstein, he had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. During this conversation with the police chief, however, he did say, according to this recounting of it, that thank goodness you're stopping him. He also called it delaying actual people. My two questions are, did that conversation with Palm Beach police chief happen? And can you explain the discrepancy?
What I will say is that the president has always remained consistent and that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club at Mar-a-Lago because, frankly, Jeffrey Epstein was a creep. And unlike many other people who are named in these files, President Trump cut off his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and was honest and transparent about that for years and years. And so I think what the president has said all along has always remained true. And the release of more than 3 million documents related to Jeffrey Epstein and his heinous, disgusting crimes just shows the level of transparency that this president and administration has committed to in bringing these files to light.
She knows 2006. Caroline, didn't call the chief.
Look, but it was a phone call that may or may not have happened in 2006. I don't know the answer to that question. What I'm telling you is that what President Trump has always said is that he kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his Mar-a-Lago club because Jeffrey Epstein was a creep, and that remains true. And this call, if it did happen, corroborates exactly what President Trump has said from the beginning. And I'm sure many of you, when you read that alleged FBI report, probably thought to yourself, wow, this really cracks our narrative that we've been trying to push about this president for many years. So we're moving on from that. Reagan.
Thanks, Marilyn. I want to ask you about the SAVE Act. NBC reported that there's some hesitation among House Republicans on adding absentee ballot restrictions into the SAVE Act. Can you explain what the hesitation is among House and also the status of Congress on the legislation?
Sure. I can't speak for House Republicans, Reagan. I can obviously speak for the president, who is quite possibly the strongest supporter of the Save America Act, which, as you know, would require proof of citizenship to register to vote. It would require proof of identification, a photo identification before casting a ballot, and it would also ensure that there are exceptions made. I think that's what you're alluding to with these conversations with House Republicans for reasonable requests, of course, for our military, for individuals who are disabled and cannot make it to the polls. Those are reasonable, common sense things that I believe House Republicans are discussing amongst themselves. But as for the president, he's been very clear. He wants House Republicans and Democrats too, if they were politically wise, to pass this legislation, for the Senate to pass it, to send it to the president's desk so it can be signed into law.
I'm wondering when the last time the president spoke to Leader Thune and discussed using the standing filibuster.
Yeah, they released the 3 million, but I think they did say there was more things to be released.
The president has given his position on the standing filibuster. As for his most recent conversation with Leader Thune, frankly, I'm not sure. I do know they speak very frequently. The president's in constant communication with both Leader Thune and the House Speaker, Mike Johnson. Stephen, I see we switched up our seating chart. Your direct line of sight now. Congratulations.
The Correspondents Association for recognizing the New York Post's reach. I've got two questions for you. One about the Guthrie case and then another about infrastructure. On the Guthrie case, does President Trump have a warning to the culprits here about what would happen to them, what federal consequences they would face if they do not release Nancy Guthrie unharmed?
I think anyone who was
Who the fuck
involved
is
in
Nancy
this
Guthrie?
depraved
Dude,
crime.
what do they keep talking about? Who is Nancy Guthrie and what are they talking about?
Nancy Guthrie is a prominent Bible teacher, author, and speaker. She primarily focuses on biblical theology, helping people understand the Bible as a unified story centered.
So what happened to her?
In January 2026, Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today Show host Savannah Guthrie, was kidnapped from her home in Tucson, Arizona. Investigators found blood at her residence and reported that her pacemaker stopped syncing with her devices shortly after she vanished. The family received unverified ransom notes demanding $6 million in Bitcoin, but the most recent deadline passed on February 9th without any sign of her return or confirmed contact from the captors. Law enforcement is currently searching the area and reviewing surveillance footage of a masked individual seen near her home. Would you like to know more about the investigation or the family's public appeals?
Dude, I didn't hear anything about this shit. That's wild.
This abduction, of course, we want to be seen held to the fullest extent of the law possible.
Some things,
can you explain?
Some things just never make it to my news feed, I guess, because I just be reading news all day.
Why President Trump asked Chuck Schumer to help him rename Penn Station and Dulles Airport after himself. Why is he interested in having his name on those two buildings? And why are the Gateway Tunnel funds the proper point of pressure to get that back?
To your first question about the renaming, why not? It was something the president floated in his conversation with Chuck Schumer. As for the funding, the president has addressed that separately himself. Danny?
Today, the vice president's account posted and then deleted a tweet about the Armenian genocide. And then last week, President Trump's Truth Social account posted and then deleted a racist video about the Obamas.
Yeah, now I'm interested to hear the conclusion of this case, even though I just heard about it now.
And the White House again blamed that on staffer. I wanted to ask you, does the White House have a social media problem at the moment? Do you have an auto-posting problem that's leading to these mistakes?
No. As for the Armenian tweet that you're referring to, I would just refer you back to the White House's message that was issued on Armenian Remembrance Day, and there's been no change of policy at this time. Marion?
Thanks, Caroline. When the president goes to Beijing in this spring, does he have plans to try and advocate on behalf of Jimmy Lai, which is sentenced to 20 years yesterday?
This is something I've heard the president advocate for, both publicly and privately. I had the honor of being in that meeting with President Trump and President Xi in South Korea that took place, and this was brought up by the president himself. It is important to him, and he looks forward to visiting China in April. Go ahead.
Thanks, Caroline. So some Republican lawmakers from Nebraska have said...
Yeah, it sounds as if they found blood at the residence, you know. Definitely could be a robbery gone wrong or whatever. Or kidnapping gone wrong.
That they're worried that the Argentinian beef executive order will sideline some American ranchers. How will your administration make sure prices go down for consumers without harming those ranchers?
Of course. Well, both things can happen at the same time. That's the president's belief. He wants to see prices come down. In fact, I just overheard him on the phone with Secretary Rollins. They were talking about something different, but he's always saying we got to make sure that prices continue to come down. As you know, Secretary Rollins successfully did that with respect to egg prices. Beef prices are coming down slightly, and the president wants to...
Dude, have you seen all the different footage? Like, there's been, like, all over the country, people are, like, smashing and breaking in and stealing Pokemon cards. Like, the Pokemon card theft is, like nothing I've ever seen before. It's like an organized fucking crime ring to steal Pokemon cards. It's so wild.
See that continue. He believes that a minor import to the country with cattle might be a short-term solution with respect to bringing down prices, but of course protecting our American cattle and rancher industry is a priority for the president, and he's in touch with those stakeholders. We've had them here at the White House a few times in recent months to discuss this issue directly. John.
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Yesterday, the president on social media threatened to block a new Gordie Howe Bridge, which will connect Detroit to Canada. This is a bridge that was fully paid for by Canada. It used American labor to construct it. It used American steel to construct that bridge. The president in 2017 was actually in favor of this bridge, part of a joint statement that he put out when he met with the Canadian Prime Minister. Why has the president changed his mind?
Man, if I owned a shop, that shit would be rigged up like fucking Home Alone. They'd break into my fucking building, they'd be get hit with like all kinds of paint cans, or actually I would just take my inventory home with me every day. I'd be like, fuck it, taking this shit home. This shop's not safe.
As it relates to this bridge?
I think the president was very clear and direct in his truth, John, but just to reiterate, the fact that Canada will control what crosses the Gordie Howe Bridge and owns the land on both sides is unacceptable to the president. It's also unacceptable that more of this bridge isn't being built with more American-made materials, even more so than what President Barack Obama committed to with the Canadians at the time, at the start of the project. He also believes that the U.S. should own at least half of the bridge, have shared authority over what passes a...
Boring. What's really in the news today?
In the Bad Bunny Super Bowl.
David Icke, the Epstein network, and their astral overlords.
The Epstein files,
astral overlords. Ooh.
The Quran is presenting a
If your phone has the answers, shouldn't it just, answer?
That's fucked up. Yeah. Well. Yeah, it's just crazy. People can't pay for security, and then the city don't give a shit. The police don't give a shit. It's a wild time to be alive here. One person working at a time, which if you're getting robbed, it's dangerous. Fucking Nas. Yeah, that's why I never wanted a job at like a convenience store, because it's almost like accepted that like convenience stores are gonna get robbed. It's like, why would you get a job somewhere that it's like almost guaranteed that they want to rob? But so yeah, if you're gonna have a job like that, you almost like need to have be rob proof. Because if you're not rob proof, you're gonna be a constant target. That's what's up. I never wanted a dispo job. I want a job like growing weed or trimming or something. I'm not a customer service type of person. Yeah, I feel that. You should shoot for that. Nas. Hey man, Nas is also an energy drink. I'd rather go, I don't know. That stuff's not very good either though. Yeah. Yeah. It's always good if you can find a job that's just like chill and relaxed and with a good boss, good coworkers. That's what to shoot for. Yeah, I've been trying to find like a part-time like that too. Yeah, I don't understand like that for whatever reason a lot of places just like they want like full-time like over like I don't know, they just want to like slave you to death a lot of places. It's like why can't you just bring in some more people to substitute? You know, I need some people to tag in. Working isn't, you know, working's not terrible, just like working like long periods at a time is crazy. You need to be able to like switch out and shit to keep you part time, but maximum hours, max hours without having to provide help. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to come up with some ideas, some entrepreneurial ideas where I can like sell something up for myself, go into business for myself. I've been thinking about maybe glass art. Could get into making like stained glass art. That could be a thing. That could be like a side hustle.
Bad Bunny's Super Bowl show reminded millions of viewers of something geography never forgot. America is a continent. The United States is just one country in it. If America is all really...
Yeah, I agree, and there'd be a lot less like homeless people like just like hanging around, because I feel like a lot of homeless people just like crave their freedom, so that's why they don't want to work like long hours or whatever, or something like that. And we need more like people just for like part-time. I don't know. I think they need to re-rig the whole system. Nice. Yeah. I've been looking into doing that. I've tried it out a little bit before when I was younger. What's up, Brandon? Just about to schmuck a bowl. How you doing?
One big place, everywhere from Seattle down to Brazil, everywhere from Schenectady to Peru, then why would it be such a big deal to be deported to yet another state? It's America. What is it to be American? Now, we've talked about what that is here in this country on this show. And yes, I believe that you are more American than the next guy or gal if you are contributing. If you are an American worker, if you are working, if you are supporting a family, if you are paying taxes, you are more American than the person who is not. That's my opinion. Now, the exact opposite opinion, as we've seen from people like Bad Bunny and now the media trying to echo it, is actually everyone on the continent, because technically it's all America, whether they contribute or not, they're just as American as apple pie subsidized by real Americans.
Yeah, I feel you.
Well, 133 million people, Rev, watched Bad Bunny go out and just completely own the field, the stage, the country, the world. Lady Gaga comes in.
Well, I hope you're able to find a good accommodating place, job like that. You can work around your schedule.
This was a pretty extraordinary statement. Ricky Martin, it was 133 million people watching this instead of alternative programming.
Why is he such a piece of shit? Scarborough? I know Scarborough's like, I used to be a Republican. Okay, sure, and you want to say you're not a Trumper, right? But why do you take glee in misrepresenting, by the way, that plenty of Americans, a record number of Americans, tuned into a wholesome alternative halftime show with TPUSA? Like, why do you always carry the water for big media and the left, because if you were ever a Republican, I've just not seen any evidence of it. It's like the tooth fairy. I know some people think it's there, think it's a thing. I just think you're kind of a piece of shit. Maybe you can imagine. I'd have him on the show. I'd say, welcome, piece of shit. It's time for Claim Truth.
At least you welcomed him.
Yeah,
that's nice.
I would be friendly. I'd be friendly. But yeah, piece of shit. Welcome. So, by the way, we are going to continue, if you're not yet a member of Rumble Premium. Everything you see today, by the way, being able to call balls and strikes, being able to put on that stream, if you haven't watched it, where we recreated the Epstein cell, undercover journalism, none of it happens without your support. It's more important than ever.
I'm not sure what I feel like doing today. Boyfriend kills his girlfriend after she calls.
She made a voice message calling me.
I'm bored with everything. Oh, this one should be good.
See what scholarships you may qualify for. Visit gcu.edu/myoffer.
This major dump of 3 million new pages of documents. Maybe we start with what you think is the single biggest new bit of information we've gleaned from this dump of Epstein files.
If I had to pick one, would be there's a very telling audio file where Jeffrey Epstein's.
Well, no need to push yourself too hard, you know. That's their goal, is to like work people to death, you know.
Says to where he's hooking him up with a job on the outside. Jeffrey Epstein asked him to make a list of people who owe.
Yeah. I want to make some internet money. I want to make some like crypto money or some like investment money or something like that. From a sciencey academic anthropology perspective.
You favors. They are preparing their exit by selling out their own country to serve outside financial interests.
What do we now know that's new about his ties to the CIA?
I don't know a single person who has FOIA'd the CIA for any open and acknowledged agency links between the CIA and themselves. Jeffrey Epstein wanted to see if there were any acknowledged touch points with the CIA for he himself grew his public profile. When you see the Peter Mandelson affair, for example, you have him giving basically what appears to be national security secrets or insider trading. He's giving advance notice.
You're saying that all the evidence you've gone through and to come to your view of Epstein and this whole story, are you sort of suggesting that your beliefs is on circumstantial evidence rather than hard proof?
When you see smoke billowing out of a house, at the end of the day, that is circumstantial evidence until you see the flame.
Before we get into this interview, I just wanted to say that we have noticed that more than half of our regular viewers are not subscribed. If you want to support the Winston Marshall Show, all you have to do is press subscribe. If you do that, we can have more phenomenal guests exploring the issues you want to hear about that the mainstream media won't touch. But without further ado, on with the interview. Mike Benz, welcome back to the show. People will know you, of course, because you've been on a few times, but also you are one of the leading investigative journalists on all things around the censorship industrial complex, and of course, Jeffrey Epstein. Now, I myself have spent the last few days doing a Mike Pence, going full whiteboard meme, and doing everything Peter Mandelson, because of course in Britain, the Epstein files seems to have done more damage to Keir Starmer's reign and premiership than perhaps any of the other many scandals in the short 2 years or so that he's been in power. Before we get into what new revelations you might have involving Keir Starmer, particularly Morgan McSweeney, his chief of staff, who's just been sacked or officially resigned, which ties into some of your work around the Centre for Countering Digital Hate that we've talked about before, I actually wanted to zoom out and look at the Epstein files from your point of view and the broader implications of this latest dump. So, of course, this major dump of 3 million new pages of documents and videos and images, 2,000 videos, 180,000 images, this absolute never-ending pit of information, which I found very difficult to make sense of. Before we get into it, maybe we start with what you think is the single biggest, the most salient new revelation, new bit of information that we've got, that we've gleaned from this January 30th dump of Epstein files.
Well, I would say the most salient bit, if I had to pick one, would be the financial fixer role and the favor bank role that these files have revealed. There's a very telling audio file where Jeffrey Epstein says to Ehud Barak, who at that point was the Israeli defense minister, who had previously served as prime minister, before that the head of Israeli military intelligence, where he's hooking him up with a job on the outside. Ehud Barak is about to leave office, and Jeffrey Epstein asked him to make a list of people who owe you favors, people who have IOUs to you. They owe you a job, they owe you their life, they owe you something. And now that you're going from the government sector to the private sector, now is the time to cash those favors in, and you could get a $3 million board seat here. You can get venture capital for a fund here. You can get involved with these technology companies here. And the reason that I think that in particular, that conversation, which ironically enough we only have because Jeffrey Epstein was secretly recording the head of the Israeli military, is that this relationship appears to be the one that Jeffrey Epstein has with virtually every high-level government figure, from the U.S. to Britain to France to even Saudi Arabia and the like, which is that there's a revolving door of favors. People are constantly doing favors for Jeffrey Epstein, and Epstein is constantly calling in favors with his friends to keep the favor bank even. And I think that this can help explain, for example, why it is that someone like Bill Burns, our CIA director in the United States, would visit Jeffrey Epstein 3 times in 2014 when he was on his way out as Deputy Secretary of State.
Is that a new revelation that they visited 3 times?
That came out before these files. That came out last year.
Okay.
But what's interesting is he would go on to be CIA director, and the CIA ties around Jeffrey Epstein are absolutely overwhelming, kind of a whole cinematic universe unto itself. But when you see the Peter Mandelson affair, for example, you have this, you have him giving basically what appears to be insider trading on national security secrets, or insider trading in a way when he's giving advance notice, as it looks to be, or at least there are strong allegations that may have been what happened. That allows Jeffrey Epstein, with a fund and with lots of friends with funds, to basically inside trade pre-market on the direction of the European bailout or other issues. And you can imagine a world where that is done to put a favor in the favor bank. And you saw the same thing happen with our own Justice Department effectively. The White House counsel in the U.S., Kathy Rumler, was the head of it under Obama. And you see her constantly talking with Epstein and giving him little bits of secrets going on in the White House. And then he goes on to hook her up, it appears, with a general counsel job for the Rothschild Bank. And it appears that she may have even spearheaded a bank secrecy law that would benefit those very banks in Europe that the bank was involved with while she was on the inside. So it kind of begs the question of whether or not government officials in the U.S. and the U.K. are doing what's best for their countries, or whether.
Yeah, I never got to use it. One day I was at the ICE facility, and then they brought out the gas, and I didn't have my mask, so I didn't get great footage. And then I bought the mask like after that, but I haven't had a chance to use it yet.
They're doing what's best for this outside fixer network to get their own personal rewards.
Right, okay, so this is Barack coming out, ending his time as Prime Minister in Israel, and he's already speaking to Epstein about next possible moves. Going through the Mandelson files, it's exactly the same thing that's happened. Mandelson was asking Epstein for advice about how to deal, and this is also with JP Morgan, about how to deal with business ties with China. And so you're saying that what we're privy to now, what we're seeing, is how this group of elites are interacting with each other as they move between the public sector and the private sector at a very high level. Now, there's lots of ickiness and disgustingness about the Epstein files, which goes without saying, but you might be, well, they're no longer working in the public sector, they've got to get a job somewhere, they've got to work somehow, they've got to make money somehow. So what if they're speaking to someone about getting work or getting connected for another job? And so if this is the most important things, maybe you want to elaborate about why this is so shocking to you.
Well, because what it shows is in visceral detail what you feel in this city. I'm currently in Washington, D.C. I've lived here many times. During the first administration, I ran a major office for the U.S. State Department, and there is something that hangs over the office, which is whether or not the people who work there are setting U.S. foreign policy or setting U.S. policy on the basis of what's good for the country or what's good for themselves. And you may ask, well, how could it be good for yourself if you're making the same, if you're making the same salary regardless of what decision you make? Well, the answer is because there are outside stakeholders in the hedge fund, private equity, alternative asset fund world, in the think tank world, in the university and academic world. And as you see, Jeffrey Epstein is donating and organizing the donations for tens of millions of dollars of universities, for example. It would be very easy to turn that into a sinecure, a professorship. This is a very common revolving door, and to hook people up with fund money, to this whole worldwide network of financial opportunity if you are good to them. And the implication of it is that you have this whole class of government officials who are not formally working with, or should be working with, a Jeffrey Epstein on the outside while they're there, but they are preparing their exit by selling out their own country to serve outside financial interests.
Right, okay, so we're talking about crony capitalism at its very worst. This is the sort of things we imagine are going on at Davos. This is absolutely what's gone on with Mandelson. Whilst the end of the Gordon Brown, when he's Deputy Prime Minister, Premiership in Britain, as you say, he is leaking information, some of which he's now under a police investigation for. So we're basically we're seeing this cronyism in real play. We're seeing it happening in across these emails. But why is that, I mean, disgusting as it is, why is that such a big revelation? Didn't we sort of already know it was going on?
Well, to see it in the crude detail that it's in, I think is instructive. You know, for example, when Epstein tells Ehud Barak to compile a list of IOUs, people who owe you, I owe you, the lens that I see through that is that when Ehud Barak has 40 years of military service, statecraft service, intelligence service, that there is a lens all the way through of who you are serving, and it's often not the person's country. It's doing U.S. policy, UK policy, French policy, Israeli policy, so as to accrue favors so that they can be cashed in. I think there are many things that we see. For example, I mentioned the Kathy Rummler. This is Obama's top lawyer at the time. When she's putting a favor in the favor bank while she's in government office. So this is the thing, when you're in a private company, in the US, we have, at least if it's a public company, you have an obligation to maximize total shareholder value. You have a fiduciary duty. In the US government, there's a hard line. You are not supposed to be serving yourself. You are not supposed to be serving outside interests, except to the extent that it advances your own countries. But if there's a conflict of interest, because something might not be good for your country, might not be good for the people you serve as a public servant, but it is good for outside interests, and they're justifying some policy on the basis of how good it is for the population, but it's actually, they know that the real reason they're doing it. I mean, when you think about the Mandelson affair, this is perverting the entire market. You don't know if Jeffrey Epstein or his network turns around and insider trades on that information way before the market does. When you're talking about major high-level statecraft officials, you can effectively, currencies rise and fall on the basis of speculation. If Jeffrey Epstein's network is informed that the U.S. government or the British government is about to take some action in a foreign country, the entire currency market can go for a ride, and everybody's own pensions are affected. I mean, let's not forget, by the way, that Jeffrey Epstein had a continuous relationship with Bear Stearns for 31 years until its collapse. From 1976 until 2008, Jeffrey Epstein was a Bear Stearns guy, even though he was only formally there for 4 years. He continued to pick up the phone and say Bear Stearns when he was at home. And Bear Stearns was the hyper-aggressive investment bank that kicked off the 2008 financial crisis, when it itself got carried away with the mortgage-backed securities. But the fact is these are high-level speculative capital that flows into the market well before anything else does. They pride themselves on effectively, as far as it's legal, insider trading by the people that they recruit, by the positions that they take. Yeah. And so everybody is impacted by this.
Yeah, well, I'd just add to the case of the Mandelson affair is also that he's been representing CCP organizations through his group Global Council. So it's not just he's representing himself to profit and this sort of insider trading as you describe it, but he's also profiting a foreign state. Now, we'll come back to Mandelson. It sort of sounds like you might think that the Mandelson affair is the biggest thing or one of the biggest things to come out of this, seeing as you mentioned it a few times. But there's a few things I'd like to talk about before we get to that. You mentioned in passing the CIA ties to Epstein and how large they are. What do we now know that's new about his ties to the CIA? By now?
Open the door to your new weight loss partner. Get the skinny at skinnyrx.com.
How did they know that I just...
Want to go to Burger King?
Kids don't need much to feel like royalty. And right now, it costs...
Do you come here a lot?
Never been here before. This Valentine's Day.
Come on.
Okay, dance with her heart.
By now, you have started with your resolutions to make the new year better for you. But the smartest people are...
I will pause there to say that I've been on this earth for some time. I know many people who have also been on this earth for some time. I don't know a single person who has FOIA'd the CIA for any open and acknowledged agency links between the CIA and themselves or myself. It would seem like quite a silly thing to do for an ordinary civilian with no CIA touch points to ask the CIA. It is by its very nature a spy agency. It is required under the Freedom of Information Act to turn over declassified documents or non-classified material, but given that most of what CIA does is classified, you would not expect to get much out of such request asking documents, and that is what came back. We have no open or acknowledged agency links. As for any classified links, we can neither confirm nor deny the existence or non-existence of such materials, which is called a GLOMAR response. Now, you would only ask the CIA for that. When you go through a high-powered lawyer who's charging $1,500 an hour for, as his personal attorney, you don't send that request unless you think there might be a there. And the issue is this is 2 years before Jeffrey Epstein became a public figure. In 1999, he was still an unknown quantity, a private citizen. He would not come into the public eye until 2001, 2002, when he began flying Bill Clinton around Africa, and the press began to wonder, who is this mysterious billionaire giving a private jet ride to the most recent president of the United States right as he leaves office. So before he went public, he checked to see if any, because you can FOIA the CIA for those kind of records on anybody, and the CIA will generate that response if they have not acknowledged any agency links. But if they have, for example, that would be discoverable by other people. It looked like Jeffrey Epstein wanted to see if there were any acknowledged touch points with the CIA before he himself became a public figure and grew his public profile.
Yes, I'm trying to think about what the other possibilities might be for such a thing. Possibly, well, if you're perhaps a little bit deranged and narcissistic, you might want to see if there's some sort of link between you and CIA as a sort of exaggerated version of sort of Googling yourself. Another version might be that he wanted to see whether, if he was maybe paranoid and wanted to know whether there was something about his link to the CIA, but most likely is that he had some sort of relationship that he wanted to know how much of that was was accessible and in the public domain, right? That's what you're saying, right?
That is what I'm suggesting. Now, I think that,
and we're only speculating.
His lawyer, of course, but his lawyer would, if they, for example, were keeping tabs on him for counterintelligence purposes or something like that, that would not be discoverable in a FOIA, and his lawyer would know that and would advise him of that before going through this process and running up legal bills. But the fact is Jeffrey Epstein's firm, Bear Stearns, was one of the three major clearinghouses for the CIA's BCCI bank in the 1970s when Jeffrey Epstein got there. They cleared about $13 billion worth of transactions, it appears, for BCCI Bank. That's the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, sometimes called the Bank of Crooks and Criminals International. It was the CIA's main way for launch to the Mujahideen and through what's called the Safari Club network. That was a U.S., British, French, Israeli, Saudi, and at the time Iranian. This is pre-1979 revolution. This was a kind of offshore intelligence network created at a time when the CIA was very weak, when handcuffs were put on it at the 1975 Church Committee hearings here in the U.S. But Jeffrey Epstein was working on deals that touched CIA banking activity from the late 1970s through the late 1980s. I would fully expect, given those touch points. I mean, I'll give you another example. He was flying back and forth in 1982. He's now 30 years old at this point, to meet with Doug Leese. Doug Leese is one of the most prolific and famous arms dealers in British history, And he was one of the arms dealers involved in the Iran-Contra affair that had joint CIA, MI6, and Israeli intelligence and Saudi middlemen work through the BCCI bank. So he is traveling back and forth to the English countryside from his commercial bank, his investment bank in New York City, working on deals for a CIA bank that involved this British arms dealer as well as the Saudi arms dealer Adnan Khashoggi. A big mystery as well on the CIA front has been how it is that Jeffrey Epstein was able to get a fake passport that listed his residence as Saudi Arabia in 1982, the very year Sir Douglas Leese and Adnan Khashoggi, the Saudi arms dealer, were running guns in the Iran-Contra affair. At that very year, Jeffrey Epstein was living with Stanley Pottinger, who was basically CIA's lawyer during the Watergate break-ins and the Iran-Contra affair itself. Stanley Pottinger himself.
What time of the day is best to give a cat a bath? So if my cat is asleep, I should wake her up from the nap and do the bath? Interesting.
Was being spied on by the FBI for his illicit gun running operation, and the only reason he wasn't indicted was because the tapes that the FBI had on him mysteriously went blank during the key segments of it. There's considerable speculation that those tapes were tampered with in order to protect that operation. But the fact is that was a full 17 years before Jeffrey Epstein FOIA'd the Central Intelligence Agency for links with himself. I think that Jeffrey Epstein knew that and in fact, I believe it was the Evening Standard who in 2001 published that Jeffrey Epstein used to say he worked for the CIA, but now denies it. And I think that Jeffrey Epstein, in his own reading of it, knew full well that he was working with agency folks on these effectively money laundering and financial logistics operations, was not necessarily formally a CIA employee, but that he was in that squishy middle ground and wanted to see if the CIA had considered that squishy middle ground to be formally part of the agency.
So working with rather than for is what it seems. And just to be clear, is this after he'd left Bear Stearns? So he's operating as an independent individual business dealer.
Jump in my new EV. I found it on cars.com.
Milton loves rocks, so he bought a .rocks domain name with Squarespace, so you can see his rocks and buy his rocks and sit on his rocks.
Did you know that home care makes a difference in people's lives? It's also a job that takes care of you. With flexible hours, healthcare, and retirement options. Apply now at OregonHomeCareJobs.com.
Making our best to share with others is a tradition that connects us all. From the communities and kitchens of fair trade farmers to the meals and memories made at your table. All the best for all. That's wholesome.
Yes, with an asterisk, which is that Jeffrey Epstein, another question has been, how has he never been indicted for any of his other crimes? Why did it take this massive scandal published by the Miami Herald in 2018 And Jeffrey Epstein was at Bear Stearns from 1976 until 1981, formally. He got in trouble with the SEC in 1981 and left basically as soon as the SEC brought him in for questioning. He was working at the time on a deal for Edgar Bronfman, who was highly involved in the very Iranian foreign policy that the CIA, the UK, and Saudi Arabia were facilitating through these banking transactions. But the fact is when he left Bear Stearns, the New York Times published this about a month and a half ago. They got interviews with about 3 of his bosses from Bear Stearns and about a dozen of his colleagues there. And what they all said is that Jeffrey Epstein continued working with Bear Stearns, if not formally for them, by kicking them deal flow, by continuing to work in the network, by being a kind of off the books, because what he was doing was too hot, off the books Bear Stearns sorcerer, so that, for example, he left Bear Stearns when he was about 30 years old. You don't know how to do a complex international cross-border financial transaction at 30 years old. There's no way you can appreciate the complexity of a dozen different international tax codes, as well as how to structure complex offshore deals. But he was kicking that to bear continuously for 31 years.
So, would you mind, we actually, I think, talked about this before in a previous episode, but briefly reminding me about the Iran-Contra affair. We don't need to go into a lot of detail, but for people who are new to this, you've mentioned it there. Would you mind briefly explaining it?
Yes, the Iran-Contra affair was a massive scandal that enveloped the Ronald Reagan administration from about 1982 to about 1988. And this was during the Iran-Iraq War. The Iranian Revolution had just kicked off in 1979, which toppled a government that was substantially installed by the CIA and MI6 in the 1950s, and a lot of people blamed the Iranian Revolution, where a favorable government turned into a very hostile one because of this Islamic revolution. At the time, the CIA had vastly reduced its presence in the Middle East because of what the Jimmy Carter administration in the US, the left-wing government, did to effectively punish the CIA for the crimes that came out during the Church and Pike Committee hearings in 1975, 1976. And so because there was an international arms embargo on Iran, it was illegal to run guns to them. However, we perceived there was a bigger fish to fry in the region, which was Saddam Hussein and Iraq. And we did not want Iraq to be able to invade the very weak Iranian military at that time, post-revolution. And so we wanted a way to run guns to the Iranians, to fend off the Iraqis without anybody knowing we were doing it, because it was a massive violation of international law. At the same time, in the Congress, there was a Democrat majority in the House of Representatives. They passed a ban on any U.S. government funds going to a right-wing rebel faction in Nicaragua called the Contras. And so the CIA came up with this clever plan to use a Saudi middleman, Adnan Khashoggi, who was Jeffrey Epstein's client at the time. So Jeffrey Epstein's handling the money for this Saudi middleman between the U.S. and Israel for Adnan Khashoggi, Epstein's client, to arrange the guns, and for the Israeli government to receive them and smuggle them into Iran, and then to take the skim of those proceeds to pay the Nicaraguan Contras with. So it was basically 2 illegal actions at once. And when these revelations hit, multiple high-level U.S. officials were indicted. The blocking person at CIA at the time, who tried to stop CIA disclosures to Congress about this that were required under law, was none other than Bill Barr. Bill Barr would go on to be the Attorney General, first in the 1990s, who would write the pardons for the BCCI officials. So Bill Barr tries to get the CIA off the hook in Iran-Contra. He then clears the CIA bank, the high-level officials at the CIA bank, of any wrongdoing in the 1990s. And then Bill Barr is the Attorney General, the head of the U.S. Justice Department, when Jeffrey Epstein is found dead in jail.
Sorry.
I was going to just complete the point by saying, so what you have is the CIA Justice Department network that seems to follow Epstein's career, clearing him at every turn, all the way up until the moment of his death.
Are there any new revelations in this latest file dump from January 30th immediately related to the Iran-Contra affair?
Well, there's an incredible email that he receives about he gets it doesn't look to be classified, but it says secret confidential, where Jeffrey Epstein is given intel about threats around Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and Afghanistan, and there's a need for outside sources of funds to assist this Pakistani effort. And this is, the BCCI Bank was a CIA bank headquartered in Pakistan to run guns to Afghanistan through money from Saudi Arabia. And this is in the mid 2000s that I had to blink when I saw that and said, was there email in 1978? This looks like he kept doing the same thing through the same network his whole life.
So this, you've been talking about this kind of gun smuggling for some time. Does the new dump? It sounds like it sort of vindicates what you're saying, but it also might be the case that you found the files that support what you're already looking for. Have you found any things which contradict how you had seen things before?
I wish. There's certain things that I think are useful to rule certain things out, or at least to kind of help sharpen the lens on this. But it's also worth noting that even before I say this, we've still only received half the files. One of the co-sponsors of the bill, Ro Khanna here in the U.S., the other co-sponsor was Thomas Massey, was on the Sean Ryan show this week and said that the Justice Department, as we speak, is working on redacting the remaining 2-point-some million files. We also know that this is an incomplete record, not just because of the redactions, but because multiple other Jeffrey Epstein properties, such as the Zorro Ranch and several others, were not even raided by the FBI. So we don't have a full and complete picture, even with these 3.5 million files. But what I'd say is, if Jeffrey Epstein had was formally, for example, a CIA agent or Israeli intelligence agent or British intelligence agent, I would expect there to be a little bit more in these 3.5 million that we've seen. There certainly were informal ties, in my view. I think it's overwhelming at this point. I mean, there are points at which he tells Kathy Rumler, who had just gotten a CIA agency award secretly, by the way, that's not public. She told that to him. It's an award given out secretly, and then discretion about whether to tell the public. To invite her spook friends to a meeting with Peter Thiel. There's a incredible email where he's arranging to basically have his fund friends raid the treasury of Libya. There's about $80 billion in sovereign funds that Jeffrey Epstein and his finance friends wanted to get their hands on. And what he says is, I've got some MI6 and Mossad guys that I can call to help with this. And having that level of access is obviously something that puts you immediately adjacent. But I also don't see like a much wider circle of contacts for example, some of the governments that I would expect to see some new names on that if it was a formal relationship. But again, it doesn't have to be a formal relationship to be, in some sense, an even more important one than the formal one. I've gone over many times the example of Bruce Rappaport, who the U.S. and Brits used for back channel intelligence deals in the 1980s. He was a Swiss fund manager with close ties to the Israeli government, and he was used as a back channel to secure a secret deal with the Israeli government that would allow the green lighting of a U.S. firm, Bechtel, who itself has enormous CIA ties, to construct this pipeline in the Middle East, securing an unwritten promise that the Israeli government would not sabotage the pipeline because it may hurt their interests because of issues around Jordan and Iraq at the time. But effectively, there was no CIA file there was no 201 personality file created by the CIA on him, which is required if they're formally an asset or if they formally work for the agency. And yet the agency was recommending that he be utilized to arrange this secret deal with in-power government officials in a foreign country. And this appears to have been Epstein's relationship with U.S. and Israeli intelligence and high-level officials both in the UK, France, and across the Middle East.
Yeah, so this relationship's what's been interesting, and there's one big new speculation or talking point, rather, particularly in the UK. In fact, it even came up in the Commons. The leader of the Liberal Democrats brought it up, is the idea that Epstein was actually a Russian agent. And this has been brought up because of his close ties to an FSB-linked individual, Sergei Belyakov. Do you think there's anything there, or should we understand it in the same way? Is it that Epstein was actually just trying to connect, it's this elite connections with everyone, including Putin, or at least he was attempting to meet Putin, to get deals done as the sticky layer of the kind of people in the private and the public sphere operating quietly in the background? What do you make of the Russia agent line of thinking?
This is beyond silly. It's outright preposterous. It's a deliberate misreading of what the files very, very clearly show. Epstein tries to get meetings with Putin, is unable to. Well, let me explain, I guess, where this comes from to explain what they're doing to mislead folks around this. So, it had been known before these files dropped. These accusations had started actually about 10 months ago when U.S. Senator Ron Wyden published about the bank details, where it appeared that Jeffrey Epstein was setting up deals to evade sanctions on Russia between the effectively Israel's version of USAID. After the 2014 Crimea affair, the government of Israel wanted to do business with the government of Russia, and then because the U.S. had basically gotten countries to commit to sanctions after the 2014 Crimea affair, they needed to do this